Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. And again, I'm suggesting that the court was as wrong with Roe v. Wade as they were in the Dred Scott case. And what I am suggesting is that the pro-life movement are the ones that today are carrying the torch of Martin Luther King Jr. And those that are publicly demonstrating and running the risk of arrest to protect religious liberty, they are the ones that are carrying the torch of Martin Luther King Jr. You've got this baker in Oregon, and the Oregon government on Friday said he was guilty because he simply made a decision not to bake a cake to celebrate a same-sex wedding. He said, look, I'm a Christian. I believe God has designed marriage and defined it as one man, one woman, and therefore I'm not going to be able to provide you with this cake. It would violate my conscience. It would violate my religious convictions to do it. And the couple had no problem finding somebody else to bake the cake. They weren't content with that. They filed a complaint with the labor board in the state of Oregon, and the labor board investigated, and they issued a finding on Friday that they were, in fact, in violation of state law, that they have criminally violated. This is the word, unlawfully discriminated against the couple. This is a criminal violation. They are now considered criminals in the eyes of the labor board, the Bureau of Labor and Industries. They're considered criminals. They've unlawfully discriminated against this couple for simply following their conscience and their most deeply held religious convictions, exercising their First Amendment guaranteed rights of the free exercise of religion. And now the latest word I have is the baker's not going to bend. They've been ordered to go to a conciliation process where he's supposed to apologize and make amends and whatever. I don't think he's going to do it. He's indicated he's not going to do it. And in truth is he has nothing to apologize for. He did nothing wrong. He did everything right. He wasn't mean. He wasn't rude. He wasn't belligerent. He wasn't obnoxious like that cornerback for the Seattle Seahawks was last night. He was polite, but he was firm. These people had been customers before. Obviously, they had not received any harsh treatment for him, or they wouldn't have come back. They came to him because he treated them well. It had been a place where they enjoyed doing business. So there obviously were no relational issues prior to this. And he was courteous. He simply politely declined to do it. And now he's being regarded as a criminal in the eyes of the Bureau of Labor. And if this conciliation doesn't work, it says here the Labor Bureau may pursue charges before an administrative law judge. So they're about ready to throw this guy into jail because if the conciliation process doesn't work, he refuses to cooperate. He refuses to accept the findings. He refuses to do what this conciliation board tells him to do. He's going to be Martin Luther King in the Birmingham jail. That's where he's going to be sent. What do you do if you order him to pay a fine and he says, I'm not going to do it? I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not going to pay a fine because a fine is a penalty for doing something wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. What if he does that? I don't think they have any choice but to throw him in jail. So that would be Martin Luther King Jr. in the Birmingham jail. So if this guy stands firm, that's where the press against civil liberties is coming today. It's coming from the pro-abortion crowd, and it's coming from the pro-homosexual crowd, and it's coming from secular theocrats. And they are taking aim, first of all, at the rights of the unborn, and secondly, at the free exercise of religion rights of Christians. All right, let's go to the phones, Focal Point AFR Talk. Let's go to Danny in Rockford, Illinois. Danny, thanks for listening. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I appreciate you incorporating the Dred Scott bit I brought up when I made my call.
Well, good. Well, thank you for, I don't know why, I've been blanking on stuff today, and I sure blanked on Dred Scott. So anyway, I appreciate the reminder. Thanks for the help, Danny. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm a constitutional law scholar. I live in Rockford, Illinois. Also wanted to point out, you mentioned Bull Connor before was the mayor of Birmingham. I believe he was actually the police commissioner.
Well,
public safety commissioner.
Yeah, I think he was actually mayor for a time. He was police commissioner, but I think he was also, he might have been mayor before he became the police commissioner. I was just reading this morning In fact, I'm going to read some excerpts from, if I can find it, from Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail. And I believe he was the mayor of Birmingham when Martin Luther King Jr. was in jail when he wrote that letter in 1963. I think when he sicked the dogs in the fire hoses, I think that was in 1966. And I think he might have been the police chief at that point, but he was mayor for a time.
Okay, yeah, well then, okay. I didn't realize that was earlier. That was the case earlier. But yeah, definitely police commissioner during, the Selma incident that happened. I had a question about something you were talking about before. With regard to you're talking about that statistic from the New York Department of Health.
Yes.
In communities, black communities in New York City.
Yeah, the number of abortions, how more black babies are aborted than born.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to, ask and hear your opinion on it. I'll state up front, I'm not trying to, play gotcha or anything, but, I am, wholly 100%, pro-choice, about as left as you can get. But I'm curious what you, might think is more likely that, people are encouraged or being encouraged through one means or another, either media or Planned Parenthood clinics or whatever way to have abortion, or it's because, of a lack of, education and access to information about sex beforehand that might lead to these high abortion rates, and especially among, poorer communities of color, a lack of resources in dealing with these issues. I'm really interested to hear your point of view on that.
Well, the reality is I think the bulk of abortions right now in America are actually done among women who are reasonably affluent. They're the ones that have the resources to go get abortions. But let's go back to, and I don't have the precise stats in front of me. Maybe I get them before the end of the show. But let me go back to your, Danny, you're saying that you're a constitutional lawyer or a constitutional law student, and you're pro-choice. You are for abortion, therefore. Are you for abortion at every stage of pregnancy?
I'm not for abortion. I'm for the ability to have one, and I think right now, I haven't pared it down in my own ideology to a set and exact week yet. Certainly not third trimester.
Okay, but why? Tell me.
Trimester, and I'm certainly not in favor of people getting abortions.
Right, I understand that, but you're
beforehand.
So you're not in favor of abortion. You're not going to encourage people to go out and get one, but at the same time, you're not going to do anything to prevent them from taking place.
It depends on the context. Like, what trimester are we talking? What week are we talking?
Okay, now let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Danny. You say that you would be opposed to abortion in the third trimester.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I think there's a reasonable amount of scientific evidence that's been compiled that, something resembling a person, exists in the third trimester stage of pregnancy, something that certainly does not exist in the first trimester.
Let me ask you this, Danny. Danny, have you ever seen a picture of a baby at 10 weeks of development, a fetus, if you want to use, I'm sure, your preferred term? Have you ever seen a picture of a fetus at 10 weeks?
Yeah.
That's a baby, my friend.
I mean,
it's got
anything, but it doesn't make it one. It doesn't mean it has the same mental capacity as an actual human being, or
okay, hold it. Now you're getting yourself in trouble.
It's just a massive matter at that point.
No, Danny, have you looked at a picture? Look up when we're done. Look up a picture of a 10-week-old baby that has perfectly formed little feet. Those are baby's feet. They are feet. It has hands. It's got a body. It's got brain waves. Its heart is beating. That's at 10 weeks, my friend. That is a little baby in there. Now you're saying that a baby in the third trimester has more mental capacity than a baby at 10 weeks?
Sorry, say that again. I'm on the phone right now.
Okay, so
I've got a map going and it's covering now.
All right, you're saying that we ought to protect a baby in the third trimester because it has more mental capability than a baby in the first trimester.
Not mental capability in the sense that, it can perform complex math problems, but, the ability to experience pain, first and foremost, I think is something definitely worth taking in consideration. Something that, certainly a baby in the first trimester does not possess.
So
any animals on that level possess, which we wantonly slaughter every day.
Okay, Danny, let me. I want to try to parse what you're saying here. I'm running out of time here, so I wish we had more time to talk. But you're saying that it's okay to kill a baby if it can't feel pain.
No, I'm not saying it's okay to kill a baby if it can't feel pain. If this is a born baby that we're talking about, well, it's in the world. It can do a lot of other things, including survive on its own. I'm saying that is, among a host of things I take into consideration as I personally parse the very complicated issue of when a person becomes a person.
Yeah, and
I'm
what's
like
your and so Danny, I mean that is the question, isn't it? When does a person become a person? What is your answer to that question and why?
Again, I don't have like an exact week number set out yet.
Okay, hold on. Well,
But we
let
have
me
to
challenge.
get-
Okay, let me challenge you right there. So you've admitted you don't know. You don't know when a person becomes a person. If you're
I'm
out,
not sure.
Danny, if you're out hunting, and you see something moving out there in the brush, and you don't know if it's an elk or your hunting buddy, do you pull the trigger?
No, I probably
Why?
wait
But why don't? Yeah, you wait. Why do you wait?
because I don't want to shoot my friend.
Absolutely. And you've just admitted, Danny, that you do not know when a baby becomes a person. You don't know if you're shooting at a person or a thing. By your own standards, Danny, we ought to wait. We shouldn't kill that until we know whether it's a baby or not. And you don't have an answer to that question. All right, Danny, I got to let you go. We are out of time. That's it for the first hour. Focal Point AFR Talk. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back with more right after the news break. And don't forget, we'll have Steve Meyer from the Discovery Institute of Seattle. They specialize in intelligent design research and concept and theory. And we'll have him on to talk about his new book, Darwin's Doubt, and also about this latest dust-up with the Museum of Natural History in Los Angeles, banishing the word God from their displays. Focal Point AFR Talk. We'll be right back. Stay with us.